You are listening to the Drink Less Lifestyle podcast with Dr. Sherry Price, episode number 165.
Welcome to Drink Less Lifestyle, a podcast for successful women who want to change their relationship with alcohol. If you want to drink less, feel healthier, and start loving life again, you're in the right place. Please remember that the information in this podcast does not constitute medical advice. Now, here's your host, Dr. Sherry Price.
Well, hello, my beautiful friend. We are feeling a little festive over here. I'm loving that my daughter is starting to sing Christmas carols and Christmas songs. Some of them I don't love, but she has a beautiful voice and she's really in the Christmas spirit this year. So it's fun. It's not even Thanksgiving and she is all into it. And I have to say that energy is contagious. I just love, even when the song is on repeat 6 and 7 times, I just really love seeing her jam out and get into it and just hear the beauty in her voice and the excitement of the season. And while I'm speaking of my daughter, wanted to remind you, if you are an Epic U, you have an invitation to come to Parenting with Intention. This is a webinar I'm doing for the ladies inside of Epic U. I know this time of year can be a season of meltdowns and stress and people being disappointed and feeling like you have to do all the things and say yes to all the things. And what happens a lot of times is that our family see the worst of us or get the worst of us because we might be energy deprived, sleep deprived, in stress overwhelm. And so we want to make sure that we are taking care of our family first and foremost. And of course, our needs have to be met as well. But really looking at intentionally parenting during this time of the year and any time of the year. Because we know stress comes into our lives at different points in time, and we want to be able to navigate that with more ease, more simplicity, and then bring ourselves back to, okay, how is it that we want to parent so that our kids can be successful, so that our households can be successful, so that there's less stress, there's less arguing, there's less tension, there's less resentment or bitterness. Because we know that all of that just gets in the way of creating these healthy, meaningful relationships with the people that we love. So this webinar is only for those who are currently in Epic U, and we will be doing that webinar on November 28th, and you should see the invitation to attend that. And if not, just reach out to me and I will provide that information for you. But I'm super excited about this because I know as a parent, I did it wrong for many years. And I've talked about a lot of those struggles on this podcast where I just missed the boat. I missed the mark. And I consider myself an educated, well-intentioned person, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I want to help you if you're struggling with parenting small kids or teenagers or even adult kids, right? We know that our kids come to us and rely on us for information, and we want to continue prospering that relationship and growing that relationship. So it could be one of the sweetest relationships we have in our life. So I'll be sharing with you all the tips and tools that I have used and learned over the years from my different coaches, from different books that I've read, from different practices that I've tried, what worked, what hasn't worked, because I really want to set up the next generation for success and for families to be successful as well. All right, so today we are going to talk about hangovers. This is not something I talk a lot about on the podcast, and I've received a few requests to talk about what do I do when I have a hangover. And I think it's a great question because if we overdrink, naturally, we will feel somewhat hungover. Now, whether you call it a hangover, it's just too much of alcohol that we know that we had the night before. Some of you may be more symptomatic, some of you may be less symptomatic, and some of you just might have the hangover shame. Maybe you don't have physical symptoms of a headache or dry mouth or feeling groggy, which I find a little hard to believe because I think when you're in the cycle, you just don't notice how much your body is not operating on 100%. I know when I started cutting back on my drinking and realizing how much better my mornings could feel, I had no idea that that was literally a hangover that I was experiencing, and it just felt my norm. It felt normal, so it didn't feel like a hangover until I was able to experience mornings that were much brighter and happier and not so much dry mouth, and where I felt better about myself. And so when we're looking at a hangover, the first and foremost thing we have to discuss is prevention, right? Prevention is key. key with anything in our health, right? We want to prevent a disease or prevent a bad occurrence from happening from the beginning. So we talk a lot in Epic U about the ways to prevent overdrinking, to eliminate overdrinking, to eliminate the desire for alcohol. And so all of these are prevention tools and strategies that we use because prevention is the best medicine. We know the hangover won't occur if we don't overdrink or touch alcohol. And a hangover occurs because the body can only handle so much alcohol. We are not equipped to handle this toxin. We weren't made to handle mass quantities of it. And that's why it's called a toxin, because our bodies were not made to handle it. And in high doses, it can kill us. So just like with any drug, right, too much becomes a toxic amount. And too much creates negative consequences to occur in our life. And it creates negative consequences in our bodies. Not only that, but also creates negative consequences in our brains. So when we're thinking about hangovers, we first want to be thinking about how can I prevent them entirely? Because prevention is always the best strategy. There are women that come to the calls and say, I have this big shindig coming up or this big party, and I really don't want to overdrink. And so let's talk about strategies to prevent that from occurring. And I think this is so wise and such a great use of our time and energy rather than just going with the flow, seeing what happens, and then waking up the next day with regret, with shame, embarrassment, and feeling like, why did I do that? And as we're heading into this season where I find more people overindulge in this time of year, the stats show that whether you look at the alcohol stats, whether you look at the overeating stats, whether you look at how much weight gain happens between October and the beginning of the year, which is estimated at 5 to 8 pounds per person of extra weight we put on, it's because we're consuming more than we need to. And so this is the time of year I go into high prevention mode, and I suggest you guys go into high prevention mode so that you are taking care of your health. And there are many ways to do this, right? You can set up yourself for a challenge. You can get help during this time. You can set higher standards for yourself. You can set a goal that's going to maintain your health and your clarity. And that would go against drinking more and eating more. And that's exactly what I do this time of year. I up my standards for myself in my health and wellness journey. And when I do that, I even feel better about myself starting the new year. And it gives me the momentums to start the new year. For those of you who set resolutions or that feels good to you to set resolutions or just to continue taking care of your health in an optimal way. Now, another aspect of the hangover, right, is that we want to make sure when we have a hangover, we are hydrating. We know that alcohol is a diuretic and it's going to cause us to lose a lot of fluid and electrolytes. So a lot of people think they just need to hydrate with water, but I will remind you that water with electrolytes is much better for the body and you will recover much faster. Our brain doesn't operate when it's dehydrated so well, right? It operates when it's well hydrated with the proper amount of electrolytes. So oftentimes people get hungover. They might feel a little bit of a buzz of a headache going on, or they just may feel a little off cognitively. And yes, this is because of the effects, the diuretic effects, and also the effects that alcohol does kill brain cells. And the body's not able to detoxify those brain cells because it's been working on the alcohol and detoxifying that. So the liver can only do so much at one time, and it prioritizes alcohol over getting rid of other cells in the body. So of course, we're going to feel cognitively, mentally slowed the next day. There's going to be those cognitive effects. And so make sure you are replenishing your body with the water and the electrolytes that it needs. Another thing that's very helpful for the body when it's hungover is that we get in some form of movement or exercise, just taking a walk. And I will tell you, this is the exact opposite what people want to do. They just want to lay in bed and sleep. And of course, when you take in too much alcohol, we know all alcohol, even the first drop to the last drop, it's all a depressant. So the more depressant you drink, the worse you will feel the next day. You'll get sad, you'll get the blues, you'll feel depressed, you'll want to lay in bed, you won't want to work out or go for a walk. But the reason we want to go for a walk and get in movement is because we want to flush out this toxin. And movement is going to help move the blood, circulate it through, move it through the liver, and cleanse the body. So this will help with the flushing out of the toxins out of the body, getting that movement. Not only that, it's going to combat the depression. When people are feeling blue or sluggish, what they want to do is lay in bed, but we know that movement or exercise really helps to elevate the endorphins and really helps to counter any type of sadness or blues or depression going on. So even though you may not feel like doing it, going for even a little walk doesn't have to be very long, or you don't have to slam it at the gym. What we're talking about is getting some movement and exercise in. So healthy for the body to repair itself back to homeostasis. Because when we overdrank, we just took it way out of homeostasis. Another thing I like to do and recommend is take B vitamins. We know that with chronic alcohol ingestion, we don't absorb our B vitamins, and we need our B vitamins for optimal cognitive health. In fact, when people drink long-term or have a chronic drinking habit, they'll notice that their hands shake, which is a neurologic dysfunction. And when they get very severe and they come into the hospital, we give them a banana bag, which is loaded with lots of B vitamins, because we want the brain not to suffer. And so repletion with B vitamins is very important for the brain cells, right, to take in those nutrients, to get back to a state of health. Because we know alcohol kills the brain cells. It kills mitochondria. Mitochondria are our energy-producing organelles within the cells. And so when you have zapped energy the next day, yes, it's because we damaged our mitochondria, which is our energy-making machines, and we feel less energy, less energetic, more tired, unmotivated. And so if you have low energy the day after drinking and hitting it hard, now you know why. So if we just talk about all that just happened, right? We're damaging ourselves mentally, and then we also feel it emotionally, and then we don't want to do anything physically. So just notice the toll that alcohol has on the body, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And then, so no wonder why oftentimes you feel like crap, and then you go into that shame cycle. There is one thing I'd like to recommend is that a lot of people ask me about, prevention and these hangover busters even before they start drinking. Like they'll do ibuprofen or they'll take these things that they see on the market. And I just want to caution you what is in all those products, because you really want to consider the long-term effects of those. And I find many of them don't work. And if you look at the long-term effects of ibuprofen, we know that this leads to leaky gut. It leads to dysbiosis in the gut. It leads to SIBO. And so this is not a great strategy, because the long-term effects on your gut lining from just taking ibuprofen may really outweigh the benefits that you get from it. And I know a lot of people just want to focus on like one thing, like get rid of this pain or get rid of this headache, but we really want to consider the avenue by which we do that, because there are safer avenues to do that doesn't cause so much harm to the gut lining. And we know that the gut is the primary source of the feel-good hormones like serotonin. And so if we're damaging the gut with alcohol and now we're throwing on ibuprofen on top of it, we're doing like double whammy duty to the gut. So it's going to take a lot longer to rebound in terms of how we feel and getting our serotonin levels back to normal so that we can feel happy and joyful again. And a lot of people just don't feel happy and joyful. And then that's why they have to turn to alcohol, which alcohol is just causing more unhappiness as a liquid depressant. So those are just a few strategies to talk about how to navigate when you do have a hangover. And I love to think about a hangover as just a great reminder that alcohol is just terrible for your health. Like if we really think about it, a hangover is nothing more than a collection of symptoms and emotional feelings that you have in the moment. And those are sensations the body is sending up because of what has been done to the body. So it's just the way the body's saying and signaling to the brain saying, that doesn't feel good. Maybe we shouldn't do that again. And I like to think of a hangover as like a check engine light, right? When you fall into a pattern of excess with anything, it's like your body signals, hey, this is a check engine light. This doesn't feel good. And it's a warning to like, hey, I'm out of alignment. I am not in homeostasis where everything can be flowing ideally and optimally. I'm out of whack. My electrolytes are off. My water balance is off. My neurotransmitters are off. I'm not feeling happy. I'm not feeling good. And so a hangover is really a sign that you are out of alignment, and the body wants and craves to go back to alignment. And alignment is just a place where I say the body feels good and you're taking actions that you want to be taking. So when you're seeking pleasure outside of yourself with these substances, it could be sugar, it could be alcohol, and it really becomes a problem when you feel this shame the next day and you feel the negative consequences affecting your brain and your body. And again, our bodies are always communicating to us. They're telling us when things feel off. Even our emotions, right? Having extreme disappointment, embarrassment, or shame, that could be a signal that your body is operating out of alignment from what it wants. Mentally, you want to be doing one thing, but you find that you do another. Now, I just want to put in a blurb here that there are people that experience hangovers and they have no shame about it. In fact, they may even brag how hungover they are, how much they drank, and how awesome and exciting that was, and they feel like crap, but they don't care. Now, the people in that category, and I've seen them, they don't want change, right? They don't find any type of shame or embarrassment with the hangover. As I mentioned, I've interacted with these people. My brother is one. He will go on and on about how great of a hangover it was because that meant the night before was a rager and so exciting and just awesome. And so I tell you that because if you have shame or embarrassment or guilt the next day when you drink, I will tell you that's a signal that you don't want to be doing this and that you want change. And that, my friend, is good news. And so that's a key message I want you to get out of this podcast, that if you have shame, a lot of people think that's a bad thing. Well, if you have shame around the drinking, that means, hey, I'm doing something that's out of alignment. I don't feel good about it. And so I want change. Because the people that don't feel bad after a hangover or with a hangover, they're just saying, I don't want change. I want to keep to my regular way of drinking and behaving. So think of your shame or your embarrassment as simply a sign that your mind and your body are giving you that says, hey, I'm out of alignment here and I want to change because this doesn't feel good. It's signaling that you have higher standards for yourself and you want to meet them. It's signaling that you want to behave in a way that is different than what you just did and how you acted the night before. And so you can look at the shame and embarrassment as a trigger for change. It's saying, yes, I'm done with feeling this way or acting this way or doing this thing or thinking this way, that I want change. So use any type of embarrassment, shame that you have about something for your benefit. Now, I will tell you, most people do not use shame in this way or embarrassment or disappointment. And there are two common ways that I see people go awry with these emotions. One is that they deny that there's a problem. They deny that their drinking or their actions around alcohol are causing any ill feelings or any ill in their life. They just say, oh, yes, it was just a night. So they deny it. And I don't want to say that denial is just they're not accepting of it. I think denial comes in many other flavors. So denial can look like this as well. It can look like you're minimizing the problem. Oh, yeah, it was a few more drinks than I normally have, but that's okay. Or glossing over it like it's no big deal, right? Oh, I didn't have that many. I'm fine. I got home okay. Or denial can look like projection by calling out others on their drinking behavior or making people feel bad when they ask about your drinking behavior. It's like, why did my husband have to ask me that? Or why did my friend have to point that out? Well, they probably did because they care about you, but you can't see it as a form of caring when you're stuck in shame or embarrassment. And so all of these ways are ways that we can be denying the problem. The other way I see people handle shame or embarrassment or guilt the next day is that they acknowledge the problem and then they go to justify it and defend it. And so I'll hear comments like, oh, it was such a big night. We all got drunk and it was so much fun, but now we all feel like crap. Or I hear, oh, the drinks were just flowing that night. Or sometimes I'll hear, but the drinks were free. Right? So they're acknowledging the problem. They realize that they overdrank, but now they're justifying why they did it. And I can tell you, yes, drinks may be free, but that doesn't mean we can consume them without any discretion. We can consume them like it's an endless bucket. And the same goes for food, right? If food is free or widely available, it doesn't mean we get endless discretion of just consuming and not realizing when we should stop. Now, food is a little different because the body needs food to sustain itself. The body does not need alcohol to sustain itself. Alcohol is completely optional. And so just to give an example, like if McDonald's was giving away free burgers and fries and drinks all day today, I would not be lining up for burgers and fries because I know that is not how I want to fuel my body. And I also know the repercussions, how I will feel after consuming and over-consuming that food. Not only just consuming it, but even over-consuming it will make me feel even worse. So I'm going to show you that free really doesn't matter. And particularly when it comes to alcohol, because nobody is dying because of a lack of alcohol. In fact, the opposite is true. People are harming themselves and developing more mental anguish and depression because they overdrink, because of the alcohol, because of too much alcohol. And we know that we thrive without it. So notice if you ever develop a hangover and you handle your shame or your embarrassment one of these two ways. You're denying the problem or you're acknowledging there's a problem, but yet still justifying it and defending it. Because these ways of handling shame or a hangover are not helpful and they won't get you healing and progress that you want. And I will tell you that these happen all the time. It's what I help women through to not do this so that they can get the change they want, so they can get back to feeling in alignment and they can start living that life that they're ultimately proud of. So if you engage in either of these behaviors, I just want to remind you that you will lose every time. You will set yourself up for losing again rather than being a winner. And I want to see you win at your health, at your relationships, at what matters most to you, because that's when joy begins to expand in your life, not shame and embarrassment. So acknowledging your shame or your disappointment or your embarrassment in any of these ways will keep you stuck in the cycle of continuing to do it, and you will continue to ask yourself why. And staying stuck in a current pattern that I have done myself for many years was never very helpful. And then I would wonder why I was hungover yet again. And the pattern just kept happening, no matter how many dry Januaries and sober Octobers and all the things that I tried and reading books and reading blogs and how they weren't helping. I couldn't see how I was handling my shame was a big component of why I kept over drinking. And so my shame and embarrassment around my alcohol use continued to grow, not get smaller, but grow. And so I want you to handle your embarrassment, your disappointment, whatever you want to call it, your shame in a way that you can get progress and can get transformation. And I want you to get to a place where I'm at, where I could talk about my drinking like it's no big thing. Yes, it happened. Yes, I'm not proud of it. And yes, I'm in a different place. And so notice how I just handled my shame right there. Let's call out what I just did so you can learn to do this for you. I admitted that I had a problem. And we know from the 12 steps, admitting you have a problem is one of the first steps. Now, I don't agree with the way they make you admit the problem, but that's for another podcast. But admitting that there is a problem here that needs to be solved and needs to be helped through is the first step. Owning it. I owned that I had a problem, and I owned that I wanted to heal from it. I wanted change. I didn't want to stay where I was. I owned the entire thing. And so I knew that there would be a process that I would need to follow in order to get healing, so it would never affect me again. And I know that the process is not about the alcohol. That is what I learned. When I avoided alcohol, when I made it about the alcohol, all I wanted to do was go back to the alcohol. I would restrict, then binge. Restrict, then overdo it. Restrict. It was like an alcohol diet, and it never worked for me. It wasn't until I learned that any type of overattachment to something or addiction to something is really not about the substance. It's really about something underlying it. And so I needed to look at what were the underlying issues that was causing me to want alcohol, to want to numb out, to want to drink. And drink excessively. Because I didn't want just one drink. I wanted to drink excessively. I wanted to numb the feelings I was feeling. It just made me feel so good to have more alcohol. And so I needed to understand what was the underlying problem, what was the root of that problem that was causing me to want to do these behaviors. So you have to get to the root of why you are doing this behavior. And it's not about the alcohol. Maybe you lack purpose. Maybe you think about life is just about getting through the day and nothing more. Maybe you're tolerating things in your life that you don't want to be tolerating. Or maybe you have no idea, so you need to get help in order to figure it out. And I had no idea because my life was pretty good on paper. And I felt pretty good most of the time of the day. So why was I doing this was really baffling to me. So I got help. And I tell you that so you can get help if you are completely clueless on why you do this. Because if you wake up with shame or regret, you know you don't want to be doing this. And that is a great sign that your body is giving you that it's time for a change. And if I could just encourage you, this is like one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself. And in this holiday season, what I find many women doing is buying gifts for others and giving to others. And that's such a beautiful thing. But think about the biggest gift you can give yourself. I tell you, giving myself the gift of figuring out my overdrinking habit to solve it was such a huge gift for me. It was a gift to my daughter because now we have this amazing relationship that I would never have with her without knowing all the things that I learned in this journey. Now I have even a more amazing relationship with my husband than when I was overdrinking. So it's not just a gift for yourself. It's a gift for you and all your loved ones. Because nobody wants to see their loved ones getting wasted, wasting away their life, wasting away their motivation, wasting away their health, wasting away their money, just peeing out the urine and the alcohol into the toilet. I mean, really, what nutrients does this ingredient give you? Nothing, no nutrients. And how toxic and damaging it is to the body and the brain and our overall health. Not only our health, but also our well-being. And this is a sad, hard truth I want us to recognize because truth is what sets us free. Living your life aligned with truth will set you free. The truth of what you want to be doing, the truth of how you want to be living. And when you're living in alignment with that, I'll tell you, you just feel so good inside. You don't need more food. You don't need more alcohol. You just feel good from the inside out. And so then the next step becomes processing any shame, any embarrassment, or any disappointment you have. It's not about denying the shame, denying the embarrassment. It's not about running away from it. It's not about drinking because of it. It's not about justifying it. It's not about pretending it will go away on its own, because shame and embarrassment and disappointment do not go away on their own. They need to be processed. And if you follow the great works of people who do emotional regulation, they will talk extensively about processing emotions out of the body so you're not carrying them around with you for years and decades. And I will tell you, my friend, that it does not go away on its own. It's an active process. It's not passive. No matter how much time goes by, it does not happen where you fully rid of the shame. Now, time does heal somewhat, but there are many people that are still angry or disappointed even years afterwards because they are locked in with that emotion. And so processing the emotion is a huge piece to healing. And I help women process their shame away so that they could allow feel-good feelings to come into their body. So their body can start to make those neurotransmitters again that prop them up where they feel naturally good. And this healing process feels amazing. Think about when you break a toe. How many of you have broken a toe? It hurts. It hurts so, so bad. Like tears are in my eyes every time I break a toe. I have so many toes, it's embarrassing. But when my toe heals and I get rid of the boot that I've been in, or I'm done buddy taping my toe to the next toe, and I'm able to wear all my kinds of shoes in my closet, not just the flats with the wide toe box that doesn't put any pressure on it. When my toe heals, I feel amazing again. When your body heals, it feels amazing. And that's why I consider this such a huge gift. It's a gift to have the shame because it's telling you you're living out of alignment. And it's a gift to heal yourself from the shame. And I think that's an epic gift, is to feel good again. And we know that feeling good and epic is not about consuming and eating and drinking more and more and more until oblivion. We know that this type of consumption, of overconsumption, leads to more disease, feelings of lack, feelings of low self-worth, feelings of brokenness, feelings of why do I keep doing this, feelings of self-hatred, and more. So what I urge you is to process this away. That is my challenge to you. Process these emotions away. Because what we know about overattachment and addiction is it affects us mentally. That's why it's classified as a mental health disorder. And just like a broken bone, it hurts when your brain or your mind is broken, meaning it's doing things you don't really want it to do. You're out of alignment. So when your mind is broken and you heal it, you feel so much better when it's healed. Many of you are walking around with toxic thoughts, negative internal self-critics, wagging fingers at yourself saying, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? And I'll tell you, it's making you sick and more diseased mentally and emotionally. And in the new year, you will be hearing that my program is going to be morphing from Epic You to Epic You, Epic Health. Because when you learn how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your mind, how to take care of your emotions, the rest becomes so much easier. We are making huge changes over here with Epic You, which will, like I mentioned, be called Epic You, Epic Health, because your mind and your body are connected. And we have to be nurturing those to get the epic life that we want. Overeating and overdrinking both damage your brain. And I'd rather teach you modalities that heal your brain so that your emotional state is healed as well. And if you noticed about all the program offerings this year, it's all about healing from these things that make us sick, overweight, and diseased. And that's why I offer a variety of programs in ways that you can heal. Because let's face it, it doesn't make sense to keep doing the same thing we're not happy about, that we wake up and regret and shame and self-sabotage. But those are all things that we can learn how to heal from. And that's what I urge you to do this season, my friend, is to give yourself that gift. Give yourself the gift of healing and give yourself the gift of feeling epic again. And if you want my help, feel free to check out one of my most popular programs called Epic You, where I help you with your mind and your emotions so you can feel epic again. All right, my beautiful friend, have a great week and I will see you next time. If you want to change your relationship with alcohol and with yourself, then come check out Epic You. It's where you get individualized help mastering the tools so you can become a woman who can take it or leave it and be in control around alcohol in any situation. Epic You is the place for women who want to be healthy, confident, and empowered to accomplish their goals and live their best life. Come join us over at epicu.com/epicu. That's epicu.com/EPICYOU. I can't wait to see you there.